All right, click the links for Gab, Odyssey, Bit Chute, Telegram. Support channel, become a member if you wish, or to support, subscribe to our coffee, the various other links. If you wanted to take a picture from 1999's Matrix, the only good Matrix, they had one movie. The rest sequels were not so hot. I think it was loosely based on William Gibson's Mona Lisa Overdrive, or one of his books. He wrote a bunch of books, and his books were really far out. But and oddly enough, Keanu Reeves was actually in two of those movies. Mona Lisa Overdrive was one of them, and then he was in Johnny Mnemonic, which I think was a little bit closer to the book. Anyway, if you want to like a cliche picture of somebody who's deep in the Matrix, and you know the saying, you can't wake somebody up if they're pretending to be asleep. The cliche I can kind of imagine from 1999 would be a face that looks pretty much like this, someone who's deep in the programming and just. You throw all the red pills you want. Red pill from a B-52 and a red pill anima, and it's going to be hard to wake up a lot of people because they're really comfortable where they are. It's like, change is very awkward. Anyway, a few years ago, I didn't know who Gina Carano was, and I didn't follow her career, or she was in Deadpool, I think, and then later on in The Mandalorian. And by the time I looked at The Mandalorian and thought, this sucks. This sucks. Star Wars sucks. Disney sucks. I gave it a shot. I gave it a chance. I saw some of the Disney stuff. I'm like, it's not only is it bad, but it's making no effort to get good. And it's also, you kind of see how they painted themselves in a corner and how they're trapped in that corner of, they're not, to change it now would be to refute all the stuff they had kind of built up. We're a progressive, diversity, inclusion, and equity company. To say, we're going to take it back to, I don't know, like Star Wars circa 1980. Well, it's never going to happen. And they're not making any efforts. In fact, it just gets worse and worse. So when I saw The Mandalorian, people came out like, this is so great, it's so great. No, things have been so bad that you look at that and like by comparison, yes, it's solid. But you go, what do you have to compare it to? The 3 Disney Star Wars movies, which are horrible. Out of 3 hours, or 3 series of Star Wars, which was probably 8 or 9 hours, was there like a half hour among 3 films that felt like Star Wars? Yeah, probably. Well, that's not enough. Okay, so out of the other movies, Solo, that was not very good. It wasn't very bad, but it also wasn't Star Wars. Rogue One, that was pretty good. So that's one film out of 5 films, which they've invested billions of dollars. You're gonna need a better return on investment for that to ask people to either spend $20 at a theater or whatever Disney costs per month. I have no idea. Never having had to pay for it, and not even the stuff's not even worth sailing the high. I gotta see my shows. I gotta see my. You don't have to. You can leave all that stuff behind. I gotta get on Twitter and talk about Sex in the City. I guess that was before Twitter, but maybe you take a break from a lot of stuff on Twitter and you go and you kind of think about it and you go, all that stuff is cancer. It's kind of the same way with Disney, but to be fair, I think most people look at Disney now and realize, these is deeply weird, deeply weird. You thought Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams were bad, and then you just look at them continue to double down on these Disney streaming shows, and it's not just the Star Wars universe; it's everything they touch is weirdly bad. Anyway, so this it goes into the long history of Gina Carano, who, like I said, a few years ago I didn't know who she was and care about her, but now it's like she's kind of our girl because she's the one chick who had balls to stand up to Disney, which is so rare these days. And she stood up very gently and politely, but to her credit, like she did. And then who's a comedian who's talking about it afterwards. He's also was in The Mandalorian. Bill Burr, I think I want to say. He's doing some interview, and it's like, okay, that's your time to shine, buddy. You're a professional comedian, and he's legitimately funny. And he kind of mentions Disney. He's like, yeah, what's going on with that? That's crazy, isn't it? Everyone's kind of waiting. Okay, and go into it, man. Just give them both barrels. That's just crazy. That's just what are we gonna? Is he hoping someone else is gonna jump in there? No, Bill, you're the professional comedian probably for 30 years. It's like, I know you have material on this. I know you could burn the stage down with this if you wanted to. True, you'd be done with Disney, but you would be like, you're financially secure. You don't need to give two shits about Disney. You can find your balls too. And he didn't find his balls. He found a little bit. He didn't quite go there. It's like, oh wow, this chick has got bigger balls than anyone in Hollywood right now. How do you feel about that, Bill Burr? It's like, I'm sure he's worth a lot of money, probably more than other people who would speak out against it. Anyway, so this goes through the long history of The Mandalorian, and Gina Carano is very reasonable, very normal. What a normal, prudent person would do under similar circumstances. A very reasonable conclusion. Hey, the whole pronoun thing. It's like, oh, I don't really believe in all that. I think it's cultural Bolshevism. I think you're brainwashed by the same Bolsheviks who've been pulling the strings for the past 120 years. Oh, no, you don't understand. This is trans, and this is istophobic, and you're No, you don't understand. Those are power and control terms that Bolsheviks use to compel behavior. You're being manipulated by the same Bolsheviks who've been pulling the strings for over 100 years. It's 1922 now, so yeah, over 100 years. They just keep popping up throughout history. In the 1950s, the Rosenbergs popped up. And then, oddly enough, later on in the 70s and 80s, the Rosenbergs and the Weather Underground, which actually Budin is a San Francisco DA who's a kind of a catch and release DA, which is a weird position for a district attorney to be in when they're catch and release. His parents were the Rosenbergs and the Weather Underground. I guess he changed his name. Anyway, there's these Bolsheviks. They popped their head up throughout history. It's like they've been pulling your strings for 120 years. So like all these istophobic words, all the terms, you know what I'm saying with these kind of euphemisms. Those are all control terms. They're at the level of Scientology, but they make Scientologists look like amateurs with the ability to manipulate people through emotional appeals, and then threats of I don't know what you call it when you kind of get all the sheep on your side. So, and what these people do is they work on crafting shields, and that takes decades. They've been working on this stuff for a long time, and then after they've got the nomenclature firmly established in the public lexicon, so to speak, they have these terms established, and they let you know that, like, these organizations that are pushing this stuff, ADL, SPLC, ACLU, are the wealthiest group of people on Earth. So they get these terms established throughout the media, and it's like, oh, it's weird how the media just picks up on this stuff and doesn't give any pushback. Kind of the same thing happened when the media started reporting on these stories, like, focus. This camera's a piece of crap. Like, 10 years ago, they started using people's pronouns when reporting on stories. And like, oh, look, I get that. You want to be polite to people in person, for sure. But the media is, you report on things fair and unbiased. So you can't use a biologically inaccurate pronoun because you're lying to the public. You're the media. You're there to report the facts. And when I saw, this was like 7 to 10 years ago, I saw the newspaper started to use people's preferred pronouns. I thought, ooh, so the media's over. Like, at one time, people said, oh, the media's on a liberal bias. Yeah, they always did have a liberal bias, but there were people within the media who were going to be honest. And it's just as fair and unbiased as possible, but the rest of the media kind of took off the mask, and you realize, like, oh, it's just a handful of companies that control the media, and in your position of, oh yeah, it's not that you just get fired from ABC, but like, you're not going to get hired by anyone else if you if your guns, and if the editor's policy is like, yeah, we use people's preferred pronouns, and you're a reporter, and you go, but that's not factually accurate. I can't use that. Oh, well, you're fired, and it's not just fired. You're not going to get hired anywhere. Oh, well, the far right, extreme right will hire you. You're saying if I tell the truth and use biologically accurate pronouns, and I go to work for the only media company who will allow me to be fair, unbiased, and impartial, those are the far right groups? Oh, okay, well, so those are the good guys. I mean, congratulations. No, you don't understand. No, they're the bad guys because we're the good guys and we're anti-bad guys. But you're the ones who are censoring and deplatforming and compelling speech. That makes you guys the bad guys. And not only compelled speech, but you're compelling a lie. You're asking reporters to lie. You're asking normal people to lie. And ultimately, for Twitter, you got to use the rules of the platform. So whatever they say goes. If you don't like it, you go to Gab, which is awesome. Which is why I haven't been following the Elon Musk thing, if he's going to buy it or not. I'm not sure about that. But if he does, and there actually is freer speech on Twitter, then, that's when the pendulum starts swinging back. Like just a rocket-powered pendulum, if that happens. I don't know. So this Grace Randolph chick is, the blue chick matrix, blue pilled matrix girl who does not want to wake up. She makes some comments about Gina Carano being istophobic, and it's not like I can argue those terms. No, those terms aren't real. Those are shields used to compel behavior by fear. They were established. It might have taken them 120 years to build up the concept of shield terms, but it's like human evolutionary language on a different level. It's not organic. It's manipulated psychological manipulation terms that this group of bolsheviks come up with to compel behavior. It's not organic. It's like a psyop. That sounds awfully tinfoil hat, but it's not. If you've been paying attention for the past 5 or 10 years to see how they manipulate language and redefine terms, and they go, oh, well, we redefine these terms to mean this. And I mean, all it takes is a child's level understanding to raise your hand and say, oh, but I redefine the terms to mean something else. But you can't do that. But you didn't, like, these people start with a conclusion, but they don't show you the analysis portion, because the analysis is self-referential. It's defined by itself. What is a woman? Oh, it's whatever it wants to be. Oh, so what is istophobicism? Oh, it's whatever I define it as. No, it's whatever I define it as. Oh, can they do that? Yeah, if you're gonna, as soon as you go away from organic language development to propaganda is what you call it when you manipulate language. This is Bolshevik propaganda. It's been Bolshevik propaganda for 120 years. Oh, you can't say that. That's istophobic. That's also Bolshevik propaganda. Anything you do that it starts going away from the organic is going to be propaganda. And that's what it is. So this goes on a long history. This is the punchline is Grace Randolph is just a useful idiot. Like, she doesn't even know what she's saying. She's just repeating things. She's parodying information that she's heard. Like, if it makes you feel better. So I didn't know who Gina Carano was a few years ago. And now there's a ton of people who didn't know who she was. And we're like, oh, not only do we want to support her, but we want to support an industry that she can start. Like, I'm not so interested in seeing her act in movies. I don't care about her acting skills. I don't remember if she's good or not. She's probably not. I mean, most actors are not very good. I'm more interested in seeing her start something, producing, directing, starting a movement. Now, a few years ago, I had been saying that, listen, we're not going to replace Hollywood. It's a big, one of the huge monster industry. But as the de-evolution of Hollywood has gone to making worse and worse movies, to getting more and more hits, it starts to look a little bit, the lay of the land looks a little bit different. Yeah, true, you got Batman and Spider-Man were billion-dollar hits, so that's an argument on their side for those are woke films. But then our side argument is you look at but they had a lot of bombs and misses over the past 10 years. You need more than just a few hits. Back in the day, before the super woke stuff, like within the past 10 years, there was a whole string of hits. And now the hits are few and far between, and movies cost money to make. There's a ton of money going into movies. Hollywood used to be a cash cow. There used to be great salaries for everyone involved, great benefits. There used to be so much money going in and coming out of those movies because they were making money. Now there's just not the same hits, so the belts are tightening a little bit. And so I look at it now and think, could somebody start up an alternative to Hollywood? And it's more of a possibility now than it ever was in the past. So it's kind of similar to Comicsgate, but on a orders of magnitude larger scale. Is mainstream comics were so bad that somebody said, "Oh, I can make my own." And can you do that with movies? Movies are a lot of money, but it's a direction to start looking at as you realize, if Hollywood keeps making misses and it's a religion to them and they're not going to change, then it does open up kind of a new industry, like an alt Hollywood industry. You got options now because of tech and alt tech and different payment processors in 2022 that you didn't have even 5 years ago. So things are different now. Anyway, so Gina Carano, hashtag our girl, our Italian waifu, who she has got some serious balls, because to be the center of this hate mob, a bunch of brainwashed sheep. And the thing is, you realize they're brainwashed sheep, but they're also very dangerous sheep because they don't know what they're doing, and they've been told their whole life that you're the worst thing. You're the worst thing ever because you're somebody who doesn't believe the Matrix. And it's funny to watch the subversion of the left over the past few years. A few years ago, you'd be like, oh, don't believe anything coming from the TV. The TV is just a bunch of lying devils. And it's like that was a left wing viewpoint to say, oh yeah, it's all just propaganda. You go, what happened to you guys? You guys used to say that. Now you don't say that anymore. It's like it seems like you're in lockstep with the TV and NGOs and banks and media moguls and big tech. It's like you're right in lockstep with them. It's weird how your beliefs coincide with all the corporate sponsors. It's like almost as if the left got subverted within the past 20 years. Is that possible, left wing? You guys used to, occupy Wall Street, march against the bankers, and now you're being sponsored by Bank of America. I mean, because to someone looking on the outside, it looks like you got subverted by Bank of America and Chase Bank and the NGOs. And you're like all these companies now have rainbow flags. Oh, okay. So you want to make the next logical step that, oh, did we get subverted? Oh, are we what we claim to hate? Are we just like corporate useful idiots? Oh, I guess we are corporate useful idiots. And the right wing is kind of the rebels. Don't get me wrong, in the 80s, the right wing used to be cringe too, but now I look back and realize, like, oh yeah, all those cringe hardcore Christians who were trying to keep degeneracy out. And it's like, they were cringe, yes. Yes, as individuals they were cringe. But they were more right than wrong for what they were trying to do. All those holy rollers, yeah, they were right. We would have been better under them. I can say that now. Yes, it would have been a little silly, but overall, it's like, oh, clean, safe towns. Oh, but that means, oh, yeah, no liquor on the weekends or something, or like no bars, or bars close at 10, or whatever. It's like, those kind of things. It's like, would that have been better than what we have now, friendo? Oh, yeah, but there's no dancing in town, or there's no dancing on Sunday, and liquor stores are closed. Like, so would that have been better? Oh, I guess it would have been. Yeah, parental guidance, warnings on music, or this kind of stuff. Like, again, those people were a little cringy. Tipper Gore. Would things have been better if we followed those hardcore Christians? Oh yeah, I guess things would have been better. It would have been, oh, you gotta go to church on Sunday and whatever, take part in the church picnic, and yes, but that sense of community is what civilization apparently requires. We were more wrong than right, and the Christians in the 80s were more right than wrong. It's like, oh, well, we can apologize 40 years later. It's like, great, you apologize 40 years later, but the country is completely gone. Oh, well, see, I love you. Try to save some of it. Try to take Oregon, Idaho, and Washington. We're going to make that like the conservative area of America. And I mean de jure, peaceful, legal, constitutionally protected activity. The Greater Idaho Project. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all on alt media, because every day I'm on YouTube, I'm waiting for that email. It says, you've been permanently suspended. The thing is, if you're not on Twitter, you don't get as much. You don't catch the eyeballs of SJWs as much. So I do understand why people get off Twitter. Anyway, I'll see you guys all next episode.